Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sasha. The UK is saying goodbye to yet another Prime Minister Monday. Keir Starmer will deliver his farewell speech before travelling to Buckingham Palace to resign, as Andy Burnham prepares to become the UK's new and next Prime Minister, the seventh person to hold the office in the past decade. So what this all means for the UK and the world, we're now joined by Przemysław Biskup, Senior Research Fellow at European Union Programme at the Polish Institute of International Affairs. Good to have you with us.
Good morning.
So let me start, just if you can recap with us and for our audience. I mean, we had a general election in the UK in 2024. The next one was due, I believe, by August 2029. So what exactly happened here that the UK is changing its prime minister? What were the main reasons?
Collapse in trust, both, I guess, from the public opinion, that's for certain, and as a result, within the parliamentary party, in leadership of Keir Starmer. It's good to indicate that the polling for Starmer basically started falling down more or less 6 months after taking the office, and it has never recovered. And in May this year, so basically 2 months ago, we had catastrophic local elections in England, Wales, and Scotland, which basically decimated the position of the Labour Party within the local government and Scottish and Welsh parliaments.
All right. Well, you said a lack of trust. Now, if we look back, though, I mean, the general election is different than local county elections. I mean, Labour did really, really well back in 2024. So again, what do you think was this contributing factor, this lack of trust? Trust in what? What single issue here made all this collapse?
First of all, let me say the local election was local only by the name. Actually, it took place on many levels of government, also regional, and in case of Scotland and Wales, national. So actually, that's probably the best indicator, real-life indicator, what the next general election could look like. The second thing is that, obviously, the general election that Starmer won, it was like 2 years ago. And it was won in a very specific way, basically by promising everything to everyone. And as a result of very cunning electoral tactics of winning 62% of seats in the House of Commons, on the basis of only 34% of the vote cast. And that's a kind of I would say that's a kind of vicious circle, because basically it means that in Starmer's, Labour Party's parliamentary group, there are around 200, maybe even 300 MPs who have very precarious positions in their local constituencies and razor-thin local majorities. And they are extremely prone to any even relatively small change in support for political parties. And importantly, what we observed in May was basically landslide for Reform UK and the Greens, but not and a very negative landslide for the Labour Party. They basically lost 1,500 seats out of 2,500 they were defending.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, this whole role on impact. So, but whatever happens next, now everyone will be watching also that speech. I think it'll be around midday, Central Eastern European time, when Andy Burnham becomes that new Prime Minister of the UK. I'm just curious on some of these other, we have some indication at least of what Andy Burnham will be like, and we know that he is a former mayor of Greater Manchester, and some people refer to him as the King of the North in some way. But beyond that, we have some quotes of his. I'm just curious what you make of it. He said that he would be a circuit breaker for the UK, and talking about rewiring Britain and breathing room for Britain. What do those things practically mean?
I guess Mr. Burnham has certain idea about that, but unfortunately I don't. He's said he's believed to be promoting more left-wing agenda, but to be honest, it hasn't been really let out at any stage so far in a clear way. So we don't really know what to expect. That's my opinion. But fortunately, we won't have to wait particularly long. This week, we'll get to know much more by triangulating his nominations to high offices on the one hand, and at least some of the major program speeches he is prone to make.
Mm-hmm. And as you said, that we're going to discover more in the course of the day for sure. But also curious, I mean, you mentioned earlier Nigel Farage and Reform, and they did very well also some time ago in those more, what we called it earlier, local elections. How do you think this is going to impact Andy Burnham? How are these two men going to face each other? The prospects of Reform, perhaps an earlier election. What are your prospects of an opinion on how Nigel Farage and Reform Party will also now, let's say, spar with the new Prime Minister?
The truth is that on the parliamentary floor, it will still be Keir Starmer, the leader of the Conservative Party, who will be the main sparring partner for Mr. Burnham as a Prime Minister. That these are the rules of the game. Reform, despite taking third place in terms of votes, the last parliamentary election has only, I think, 6 MPs at the moment. So it's a minor parliamentary party. Nonetheless, one of the decisions that Mr. Burnham will have to take, very early in his premiership, will be whether he goes for a snap election or not. And if he goes for a snap election to get his own personal mandate, especially if he wanted to really rewire Britain in a significant way, that would be a huge opportunity for Reform, which is still the leading party in most opinion polls.
And also in terms of, I mean, we talked about a little bit, we'll have to see what all this means in practice, circuit breaker, breathing room, but how much breathing room, let's say, does he have when we look at a lot of the major issues and topics on hand? I mean, they matter for the UK and Europe, for instance, Ukraine, support for Ukraine, NATO. I mean, do we have any indication, or what's your opinion on how the UK will do there in terms of continuing its commitments, or will we see a shift away, or how do you see it play out?
Well, I would say there is general broad consensus in British politics, and that actually includes Farage, concerning the need to support Ukraine. The biggest challenge for Mr. Burnham in general, but also specifically in the context of Ukraine, is the state of the budget. Because let us remember, the UK has already record high public debt levels and record high taxation levels in peacetime. So if he wants to pursue his, let's say, left-wing inclinations and increase welfare spending, this will immediately hit the wall, the financial wall. But if he wants to honor commitment to increase defense spending, which, let us be honest, even under Mr. Starmer, has been deemed by most experts and senior military people as insufficient, then he will have to start cutting the welfare spending. And that's something very difficult for a Labour Prime Minister.
I mean, there's many layers, as you mentioned already. I mean, in terms of tackling issues, the budget, that will be big in terms of how to solve these and sorting it all out. Defense spending, as you said, has been also criticized as well. But if we look out into the next, let's say, 6 to 8 months after Andy Burnham is already prime minister, I mean, that's also a dangerous time because premierships have been rather short this last decade. But if we look out in the 6-month marker, what would you sense? Where can we tell in which area is it a success for Mr. Burnham or failure? Where do we see that in a few months' time?
Well, I would say if Mr. Burnham doesn't change the I would say communication strategy, that's certainly a failure, because that's almost by definition, I would say, his one of his strongest suits. But in all other circumstances, it really depends on this basic decision whether he's ready to go to the nation to get his own mandate or not. If he's not, then basically he's stuck with all the structural limitations that Mr. Starmer faced. And I would say with similar results.
All right, so we'll hear more throughout today. On Monday, as we know, that new Prime Minister will be Andy Burnham, and there are a lot of things in his in tray. Thanks so much for all that. Really appreciate it. That was Przemysław Biskup from the Polish Institute of International Affairs. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us here on World Talks, but do stay right here on TVP World for more news and commentary. Goodbye.